When he wrapped his arms around me, everything was intimately okay. Every word that came from his mouth was like a poem. No one could make me feel the way he did. He was my rock. But thanks to this boy named Michael, I was living a lie. Using the next few moments of your time, I will be outlining the story of Michael and my relationship, while hopefully disclosing a new concept of self-acceptance onto the ones who listen. To begin, Michael and I dated just short of 2 years, with Christianity at the core of it all. But the funny thing was, before Michael, I had hated my Catholic background and had been forced into the practice by my grandma. Michael, however, was religious by choice, and everything he aimed to do was dictated by God's word. So as Michael and my relationship grew, his godly ways began to rub off on me. I started to read the Bible, Sunday masses became a weekly date for us, I stopped my ungodly habits such as swearing, drinking, and smoking, and for the first time, I eagerly followed biblical protocol. This was an extreme, seemingly great, lifestyle shift that oddly began to change my life for the worse. For one, it caused my parental relationship to go downhill. We fought constantly because my parents had always urged me to be as open-minded as possible to the changes of our world, but Michael had been Bible-ridden to the bone since birth, and my parents were afraid that that would rub off on me. Secondly, my friends started to drift away. I was a social butterfly. There was no doubt I would attend every type of social event because to me, people were everything. But when Michael came along, I started to become more reserved and quiet. I was no longer the fun, spontaneous person my friends had grown to love, so they began to distance themselves. Through these hardships, I believed it was best if Michael's family occupied my free time, because the moments I spent with them made me feel like who I had become was who I was meant to be. They would say that God had an intentional purpose for me, and that the changes I was making were my gateway to heaven. But no matter how much I changed, it never seemed to be enough for Michael. Time and time again, he would make this clear, saying my efforts weren't as great as they should be. This created the third downfall. I wasn't happy. But I thought in order to live a perfect life, I had to struggle and face criticism. But then after a year and a half, Michael left on a journey across the world, and that's when my life changed even more. It was midnight on a Tuesday when my phone buzzed. I couldn't help but smile as his name lit up my phone, but the smile was short-lived. His text was a confession. Everything in which he confessed was an utter contradiction of everything he had wanted me to be. He told me he was an addict. Alcoholism had overcome him. Constantly, he was drunk. Smoking literally anything he could get his hands on was routine. Porn was his third addiction, and with that, he was unfaithful. He fucked 3 girls during our relationship. I was just another one. With shock overcoming me while reading through his naked exposure, strangely, I felt that it was my fault. I thought there was something I could have done or did do to make him act this way. There had to have been something. So with my new duty as a Christian to be as godly as possible, and how I was supposed to forgive anything and everything, just as Jesus did, I took him back with an open arms and a hopeful heart. But despite my forgiveness, a month later he broke up with me. He said I was too much of a distraction, and if he was to follow God's will, we couldn't be together. That's when everything became clear and started to change for the better. I had done everything Michael had wanted me to do. But it wasn't enough for him, because in reality, he had morphed me into whom he wanted himself to be. He knew he wasn't a good or even true Christian, so he lived through my triumphs while disregarding his own reality. His love for me was just a goal for himself. I wasn't the fucked up one. He was. With that, I cut him from my life completely, and after almost 2 years, I felt genuinely happy. Not only because I escaped such a toxic relationship, but because I no longer had to live a lie. Through hearing my story, some of you may believe if I could change the past, I would, which sometimes I do. But in all honesty, if I could, I wouldn't. On one hand, I thought Michael was my rock, but in actuality, the experience was. This experience is my bedrock. On the other hand, through this shitty person, I learned I became a lie to find myself. There is no reason to live in a way that benefits someone else, because what is right for them could be wrong for others. I created a seemingly perfect self out of Michael's ideal perfection, not mine. Honestly, I am not a religious person. I never have been, and I probably never will be. And that is something I have made peace with. Because that's how I am, and that's a way that makes me authentic. And that is okay, because it makes me happy. So if you're going to take away anything from these last 5 minutes, take this. Don't change yourself for anyone. Not even the person who seems like they have it all together. Because you can never be sure of anyone but yourself. From my experience, I've learned how freeing and joyful it is to live authentically, and I hope that you can too.